The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. True, I had been very, very nervous, and I still am. But why do you call me insane? The disease had improved my senses. My sense of hearing became especially acute. I heard everything in heaven and earth, and even in hell. Notice how calmly I can tell you the whole story. I cannot say how I came up with the idea, but once I had thought of it, I could think of nothing else. I was not angry. I loved the old man. He had never hurt me. I didn't want his gold. It was his eye. One of his eyes looked like a vulture's. It was a pale blue eye with a film over it. His glance made my blood run cold. So I decided to kill him and get rid of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You think I am crazy, but you should have seen how carefully I made plans. I hid my feelings well. Shortly before I killed the old man, I was kinder to him than I had ever been. About midnight every night for a week, I turned the doorknob, oh so gently. Then I made an opening for my head. In the opening, I put a lantern with the light covered. Next, I stuck my head through the opening. I moved very, very slowly so as not to wake the old man. It took me an hour to get my head where I could see him. Ha! Would a madman have been as wise as this? Then I carefully opened the lantern cover so I could see the vulture eye. But every night the eye was closed. I could not kill him until I saw his evil eye. Every morning I asked how he had slept. So you see, he would have had to be a smart man to suspect me. On the 8th night, I was so still that a watch's minute hand moves faster than my hand. Before this moment, I had never felt how powerful and wise I was. As I slowly opened the door, the old man moved on the bed suddenly, as if he had been surprised. Now you may think that I drew back, but I knew that he could not see the door opening in the dark. Finally, I had my head in. My thumb slipped on the lantern. The old man cried out, "Who's there?" I kept still for a whole hour. During that time, the old man sat up in bed, listening. Then I heard a stifled groan of terror. I pitied the old man, but my heart chuckled. I knew that he had been lying awake since the first noise. He had been growing more and more afraid, but there was no escape. The presence of death made him feel my head in the room. I waited for a long time, very patiently. Then I let out a thin ray of light from the lantern, which landed directly on the old man's vulture eye. It was wide open. Now I have told you that I am not mad. Rather, my senses are too sharp. So I began to hear a low, dull, quick sound, like a watch wrapped in cotton. I knew that sound too well. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It made me even angrier, the way a drum beat makes a soldier braver. I held the light on the eye, but the sound of the heart grew quicker and louder. He must have been terrified. The noise terrified me too. I thought the heart would burst, and now I became afraid that a neighbor might hear the sound. With a loud yell, I leaped into the bedroom. The old man shrieked only once. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. Then I smiled because the deed was nearly done. But for a while, the heart beat on. Finally, it stopped. The old man was dead. I held my hand over his heart for many minutes, but felt no heartbeat. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. Do you still think I am mad? Consider how I hid the body. First, I cut up the corpse. Next, I took up 3 boards from the bedroom floor and hid the body parts there. There were no blood stains. I had caught all of the blood in a tub. When I finished, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, still dark as midnight. I answered a knock at the door with nothing to fear. 3 police officers entered. The officers had come because a neighbor had reported a shriek in the night. I smiled. What did I have to fear? I said I had shrieked from a dream. Saying the old man was away, I let them search the house. Then I led them to his bedroom and brought chairs. I wanted them to rest here. I put my own chair over the place where I had hidden the old man. I had convinced the officers. We all chatted happily, but soon I felt myself grow pale. My head ached and my ears seemed to ring. I kept talking, but the feelings grew worse. Soon I realized that the noise was not within my ears. I am sure that I grew very pale. I talked faster and louder, but the sound became louder. It was a low, dull, quick sound like a watch wrapped in cotton. I gasped for breath, but the officers did not hear the noise. I talked faster. The noise grew. I stood up and paced the floor, waving my arms as I argued about nothing. But the noise steadily grew. Why would they not leave? What could I do? I dragged my chair over the floorboards, but the noise arose all and grew louder and louder and louder. Still, the officers chattered and smiled. Was it possible they could not hear it? No, they had heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a cruel joke of my horror. Anything was better than their hypocritical smiles. I could bear it no more. I felt I must scream or die, and now, again, listened, louder, louder, louder. Villains, I shrieked. Pretend no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the floorboards. Here, it is the beating of his horrible heart.